Prynhawn da, good afternoon, a chroeso cynnes I ffeinal Cystadleuaeth Ffotograffiaeth, Cystadleuaeth frwd iawn, a Cystadleuaeth sydd wedi tyfu dros y blynyddoedd diwethaf. A very warm welcome to you and to the final of the Skills Competition Wales photography category. This category is one that has evolved and grown over the past 3 or 4 years, and we're very proud today, as I understand, that we are the first of the series of online final competitions during these difficult times. So we feel that we have no pressure to ensure hopefully will be a very pleasant and enjoyable afternoon. The weather is pretty grim outside, so the perfect afternoon to sit back and enjoy the hard work of our competitors. And of course, it is all about our competitors. We very warmly welcome you in joining us this afternoon, and we thank you for your entries and for your persistence, really, in ensuring that you did meet the deadline back in December to upload your photographs under the category of a new normal. So we're very much looking forward to seeing your work this afternoon. So if I can just tell you that the technology aspect is hopefully working for us this afternoon. We have a few of us connecting through Zoom whilst the live stream is happening through the YouTube. So if I could just introduce myself first of all. My name is Nia Jones and I work for Group Llanfairpwllgwyngyllgogerychwch, and I will be the host this afternoon as we as a group have the lead on lot 11 for the creative media category. Joining me is my colleague from Group Llanfairpwllgwyngyllgogerychwch, Paul Edwards, who's the Programme Area Manager for Creative Arts in Coleg Menai on 2 campuses outside Bangor and the other one in Llangefni on Ynys Môn. Also joining us on Zoom today are 2 very important participants in this process, and they are, of course, our judges. I'm very pleased to welcome 2 new judges to our competition this year. We welcome David Barnes from the University of South Wales, croeso David, and also John Plymmer, who works as a freelance photographer for his company, which is GSD Media. I think I'm right in saying that. So a very warm welcome to you as well, and thank you also for your contributions and hard work in ensuring that we are at this point in time this afternoon. Also, of course, our support throughout all of this process, Rachel Arnold, who holds our hands and ensures that we try and meet all our deadlines and everything gets done. Rachel Arnold, who is the skills sector champion for the creative and media sector. We would like to formally thank you, Rachel, for all the assistance that you've given us over the past months. Emma Banfield was here a minute ago as well, of course, who manages the competitions, and also thank you, Emma, for your continued support as well. Diolch, Emma. Okay, I've mentioned that we are also live streaming this afternoon on YouTube. We hope that you are following us and will enjoy the afternoon. I'm going to just pass over now to the judges briefly to say a few words about themselves. So David, can I pass over to you, please?
Yes, welcome. Thanks very much, Nia, and welcome everybody to a really exciting afternoon. My name is David Barnes and I'm a photographer and a filmmaker. I live in Macon in South Wales, and I teach at the University of South Wales part-time. My specialism is documentary, so I'm really interested in the documentary dimension of photography and film particularly, so related to the real-world experiences and the things that really happen in the world. So those are my primary interests, and I'm really looking forward to talking about the work this afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. If I can pass now on to John.
Hi, I'm John. Rather unimaginatively, I am also a photographer and filmmaker based in South Wales. I am a freelance photographer working mostly in the realms of events, portraits, and weddings. I don't like saying I have a specialism because I'm a special kind of weird. I get bored doing the same thing day in, day out. So when I get bored of weddings, a fun event comes up. When I get bored of events, a fun portrait shoot comes up. That's the way I like to play it. And yeah, I echo what David said. This should be a good afternoon.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So before we proceed, if I can just ask a couple of things of everybody, please, this afternoon. It's quite a challenge to ensure that everything goes according to plan. So we all need to remain respectful. Of course, that goes without saying. Wherever you're joining with us. So please, if you have any comments or are wanting to put any messages, I'd ask that we all remain respectful of one another. No marks or no positions of gold and silver and bronze will be allocated today. Everything that you hear from the judges today will be then given to us in written feedback, and it will all be moderated against the grading criteria. So there will be no results or formal results or placing of prizes announced today. What we will do is we will view each competitor, and there will be a loop of their photographs as David and John are giving their feedback. And they will both participate in offering feedback to each competitor. So just to reiterate, no results today. I think I've covered that first slide now. I'm sick of hearing my voice, so we'll quickly go over to the important people this afternoon. And we were very heartened again to receive nine entries. And again, thank you, diolch yn fawr, to you as competitors, your tutors back at the college, but for your support also. Without further ado, I think we should start, but I'll just name you all, make sure that we've got you all. And this is the order that your photographs will be appearing on the screen. So we have Cerish Jones, Lewis, Nghystadleuaeth, Kian Swinston, Leah Wyatt, Morgan Gregory, Pearl Marden-Lewis, Ramona White, and Rosie Myers. They're in no particular order. They're in a random order of display this afternoon. So we're going to start with Cerish, and as Cerish's photographs are appearing on a loop, I'm going to pass on now to, is it David who's starting? David, to start off the feedback for Cerish Jones. Diolch, David.
Thank you, Nia, and congratulations to all of you. Well done for submitting a fantastic range of entries. John and I really enjoyed the process of going through all your work, and it's great to see such passion coming through in this work. So just John and myself are going to give kind of really informal feedback, our thinking at this point in the process here, and just to start off with Cerish's work. So a really great one to start here, I think, and a really good documentary type subject to kick off here as well. So this is a body of work that's really about faith, and quite a range of ideas here, including the context of lockdown and how people are kind of experiencing faith in the community of the church in lockdown, and a range of kind of technical and visual approaches here including some things which are outside my area of expertise, including picking out particular colors and so on. So I think John and I were very impressed by that overall, and there's a good sense of narrative and storytelling in the work that we were really impressed by. I think we made a comment that we would have benefited from a contextual statement or some further notes to accompany this work, just to make it really a bit more clear what your intentions were, Caris. But as I say, very impressed. So I'm just going to pass over to John now to continue the feedback.
Echoing what David said, yes, very strong start, very good. A documentary feel to most of it, except for one image, which is coming up in a moment. And funnily enough, spot the portrait photographer. This one is the one I got most excited about. I think that is a very striking image and fits in well with the rest of it. As David said about the program notes, we'd have benefited from that because the message of the positivity of faith and need my notes. Positive faith in lockdown and the effect that that has on each other in getting through these tough times is something we have assumed, that as an assumption we have made looking at the work. We could be completely wrong. You might be trying to say the opposite, but we don't know. Either way, I like them. They give a clear message and they are powerful.
Lovely. Diolch, John. Thank you. So if we could go back to our listing of competitors and move on. One thing I should say, that if you have any questions, please do engage with us, and I understand that they will be filtered through to our chat here. So please don't be afraid to contribute and take part if you have any questions. Thank you. So we'll move on now to Cheyenne Lewis, please, Paul. Thank you. And over to John, I think, now to start on the feedback.
Yeah, I'm going to take my time on this one because although we've got the names and I've seen them before, I just need a brief recap. These ones, yes, we like these ones. These ones did come with supporting notes, and I believe Cheyenne, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. What you were trying to do is show people coming in the Polaroid and then show a different side of them in the more studio, more directed photographs, which is what these are of them holding the Polaroids. It's a wonderful concept. Love the concept, and it's technically very well executed. Great use of lighting. I don't know, David and I debated this for a while. We're trying to work out if you used any studio lighting or if this was just ambient lighting in the room that you were in. I'd still like to know that answer. It's probably not keeping David up at night as much as it is me. But yeah, great concept and well executed. David, anything to add? I really agree with what John's saying there. And, it's nice to see people mixing the digital and the analog, isn't, as John said, using the studio and these two dimensions of the experience. So we're seeing the people in this Polaroid and in the studio. John and I wondered if a way of looking at this might have been to actually remove the mask in the studio and see the person with the mask in the Polaroid. But that was just us thinking aloud, I think, a little bit about ways in which we realized that might not have been technically possible, but that was just a thought. But yeah, combining the analog and the digital in terms of the physical thing of the Polaroid, it's a really beautiful thing with that, being able to write that brief statement, that brief kind of keyword on there. With as John says, then that studio. So yeah, really interesting set of portraits. Useful to have the notes from Cheyenne saying what you were looking to do there. So yeah, thanks very much and well done. Sorry, just quickly back to the technical aspect. It's a wonderful use of depth of field. I thought they're holding up a Polaroid, and if this isn't what you intended, feel free to steal it for future projects. But they're holding up the Polaroid of how they present themselves to the public during a pandemic, and then out of focus behind it is who they really are, and they're slightly blurry, so you can't quite make them out. I really like that. That was an excellent technical choice that you definitely made.
Yes. Excellent. I'm learning all the time here. Great tips. Thank you very much. Fine, we'll move over to our third competitor, please, and that's Alice Duckworth. And David, over to you.
Yes, so this is Alice's work, which again came with a statement, which gave us an insight into what you were planning, what you were thinking, Alice. And I mean, some really hard-hitting work here, a real sense of emotion that came across here. And I know that there was one image in particular that kind of really got John, but yeah, that internal kind of world, that closed down world that so many of us have been experiencing under lockdown, and using photography as kind of an expressive form, an artistic expressive form, to really kind of convey emotion here with an interesting range. You know, it's often something hard to achieve, to create a feeling using just this one space, or what feels like one space, you know. So really well done on that. And I know, John, you're really passionate about one picture especially in this, weren't you?
Yeah, which might not say what I want to about me, but it's this one in particular. And this is the problem with trying to judge, for want of a better word, art, because there are so many factors that can play into your judge's decisions. And this is what's happened here. So all of these are great. I particularly like this one as well. I think we had notes for all of them on things to develop and stuff like that. But the one of the feet, that one, and I don't know if anyone's been watching me while David's been talking, but that one. So this curling at the toes, I know what that feels like. I have done that in moments of or times of stress, high anxiety, stuff like that. I curl my toes. I do it in my shoes. I do it when I'm not wearing shoes. Shoes are irrelevant, but I do that. And that one really spoke to me, because as soon as I saw it, those feelings came welling up. And regardless of what you think of the arty-farty stuff, as photographers, we are artists, whether we like it or not. I don't particularly like it, but we are artists. And one thing an artist wants to do in his work, or her work, do in their work, is invoke an emotion, a feeling, a response from people. The worst kind of art, I say the worst kind of art is subjective, but what we don't want to do is people to look at our art, look at our work and feel nothing and just walk on as if they hadn't seen it. That image prompted such a response from me. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely brilliant. Sorry, I've gone on a bit.
Okay. No, some powerful feedback there. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Paul, if you can go back to our listing of competitors, please. Thank you. And we move on now to Kian Swinston. And John, I think it's back to you.
Kian, yes, I liked Kian's work. I'm not going to show you around my house, but I have work on my wall that I have taken very similar to what Kian's done. I'll let it move through, but that sort of misty, ethereal landscape, the mystery behind it. Yeah, I really like this kind of work. You benefited from sending us notes to go with it, which made sense. We're not entirely sure you hit the mark you were intending to based on the notes, but still you did hit a mark. Excellent use of black and white. These are very well executed, I thought. I really enjoyed looking through these.
David?
Yes, you know, I know John was particularly moved by this and the kind of feeling, the emotional kind of feeling of the woodland in this kind of misty scene, and the variation of approaches to that, as was I. Yeah, as John says, really good statement, just needing a little bit of clarification. There's a certain kind of disconnect, a small amount of disconnect between the intentions in that statement, really good statement, and what we're actually seeing. But as John said, what we were seeing was really strong, and a really good sense of atmosphere and emotion in that work. Some of the images were quite ambitious in terms of their geometry, and this one in particular of the tree, looking vertically up the tree, and how the different kind of artistic approaches play into each other and kind of create this story, this sense of feeling. The one of the tree, I'm a bit of a kind of historian of photography in some ways, and the modernist, there's a whole modernist era of photography in the 1910, 1920, 1930, that kind of era, where photographers really broke with formal traditions and tried to look for very, very aggressive angles, very, very different angles on buildings, on nature, and so on. And I can see some of that kind of energy coming through in the work. So yeah, fabulous submission, and well done. Congratulations.
As an addition, because I missed it when we started, I think Kian is the only one who intentionally used a longer shutter speed to create that mist effect of the water coming along the stream. So good example of technical knowledge and application, I thought. But yeah, I like that one.
Great. I think we're getting the gist that you like all these photos. So excellent. Thank you very much.
So far. I mean, we like them all anyway. I didn't mean so far, or did I? You'll never know. Oh.
We're not going to drop any bombshells yet, I hope.
Great. So we move on to our next competitor, and that is Leah Wyatt. And I think we go back to David to start the feedback.
Yes. So we mentioned in one or two that we were hoping for more notes, and in Leah's submission, we got a massive amount of notes and insight into all kinds of dimensions of her experience in creating this work. I suppose it might have been useful to have just a kind of brief summary of the key intentions in the work. That would be a slight form of criticism, but what a powerful piece of work, and very skilled in things that are outside my range of expertise. Most of this body of work is made, as you say, using mobile phone technology and these kind of seemingly simple apps, but to create something that's really quite unique. This picture in particular, we're in the mirror there with the putting on the lipstick, but then in the mirror with the mask on. I mean, that's something that it looks so simple to achieve, but it's not. And there's a lot of effort gone into the technical aspect of this, the post-production of this, and really thinking kind of expansively and creatively in terms of your use of all kinds of LED lighting and one thing and the other. So yeah, really exciting, really powerful, emotional as well when we see some of those differences, those expressions. Over to you, John.
Yeah, so I won't lie to you, Leah. I first looked at these and thought that they were oversaturated and not my thing. But, and they do say about a but negates everything that comes before it. So ignore what I've just said. The more I looked at these, the more I liked them. As David said, we talked in depth about the mirror replacement in that shot, because if you're using Photoshop, a mirror replacement, it can be tricky if you've not shot it right. And I don't know how you've done that, but that is an almost flawless mirror replacement, and it's brilliant. And what you're trying to do with the message of hope, love for the NHS, and stuff like that, the saturated, I don't want to say over-processed, but the saturated digitally enhanced, let's say digitally enhanced, that's a much better term to use. The digitally enhanced effect works. And you gave us very comprehensive notes. So you shot all this on a mobile phone, which is just people, I get asked a lot, I've got this camera, is it any good? I'm going to get a camera, what one should I get? Your body of work proves that you do not need a good camera to take good pictures. It can help, and it can certainly help to get a specific look or a specific feel that you're going for, to have a £3,000 lens and a £2,000 camera body. But you don't need one to take a good and powerful image. And I think that's what you've done here.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you very much. Back to our list, and we move over to Morgan Gregory, please, Paul, Geoff, and over to John to start the feedback, please.
Oh, I'm starting, Morgan.
No, I think it's me,
Oh,
isn't it?
I beg your pardon. Is it David? Beg your pardon.
Might be right. We should have written down, shouldn't we, John?
We should have written down the order. You start, David. You start.
You can tell I'm enthusiastic to start, can't you, on this one?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I thought that one of the things that was really interesting about John and my discussions on this, and we had a good few hours looking at all the discussions, is we were really, you know, John and I have a lot of overlap. We have a lot of similarity in terms of our practices, our businesses, you could say, and our interests, but we also have things that are different. And John, you know, I learned some really interesting things from John, and you know, I don't mind saying in relation to the last entry, actually, John had to point out that mirror placement thing to me. Initially, I didn't actually see that to start with. I'm embarrassing myself here, aren't I? But back to Morgan's work, this was really immediately something that grabbed me really strongly, because this is, I suppose, a kind of photography that many people might overlook and might think, oh, what's happening here? Because what we're seeing here, you know, the inside of the toilets, the inside, you know, it's not a conventional vision of the world. It's not a kind of pretty picture. So it's not like a lot of photography that we're kind of used to in our lives, but it's exactly the kind of photography that appeals to me, and that I've kind of, I suppose, made a real career out of, which is trying to photograph that everyday experience, trying to see things that other people are overlooking or that are very ordinary. I have to say, I've photographed in some of these similar places myself. And Morgan, your ability to convey emotion in these very ordinary places and to tell a story in these ordinary places is really something to be complimented. So of course, you know, I'm hoping that you will go on and that you will develop this interest and turn into a fully fledged documentary photographer. I'm always really passionate to see people develop those interests. So yeah, lots of good stuff to say. I think, again, one small point of feedback, critique, would be that this project again didn't have notes associated with it, didn't have a statement associated with it. So there were one or two things, although, you know, you can tell my enthusiasm for this project. There were one or two things that we weren't quite clear on. So for example, what appears to be a self-portrait there, we weren't quite sure what the intentions were of that self-portrait. It was powerful with the kind of crosses over the eyes. We weren't quite sure of the reason for that. But yeah, really strong documentary style approach, and really hope that you'll continue with that.
Yes. And you can, again, David and I have a lot of crossovers, but you can spot where we're different. Documentary photography isn't really something I understand too well. So it was actually with a lot of David's help that I started picking out things in these pictures. But yes, there's a lot of technical work in there, and they do speak. So just because I've said documentary photography isn't my thing doesn't mean that they don't speak to me. It was much more the technical sort of stuff that we discussed. But yes, they do tell a story. That looks like my local rugby club. I kind of want to know where this is, because that looks like my local rugby club. I don't think it is, but it's really bothering me. This image in particular, the lone garden chair, bare light bulb, looking out at a fence. That one for me is particularly powerful. Good effort.
Thank you. We hope you get inside your local rugby club very soon, John.
Yes, it would be nice. We're all hoping that, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yes.
Won't be too long then. Thank you. And we move on then to our next competitor, Pearl Martin-Lewis. Thank you.
Pearl.
And I think it's John to start the feedback this time.
It is. I just need a quick refresh. Pearl. Yes. So again, another strong documentary angle. So David will have a lot more to say about this than I will, but I will pick up a few things that I really liked, especially, wait for it, this one. I loved this image, but then I've got to think about the sea. I love the sea, could never move far away from the sea. But yeah, excellent framing. You've got your horizon nice and level. That's one of my pet peeves. Nice, should have a nice level horizon. Similarly with This one, I didn't really understand this one at first until I read your notes, but the barrier in front showing the division that you are not allowed at the moment to go onto your beach where you would normally go. Very powerful, very good.
Yeah, again, another body of really documentary work, a different kind of documentary work here, working, you know, outside, primarily outside, and a lot of kind of closely observed images of people in the distance in their own space. And as John says, these kind of literal, or I suppose metaphorical barriers that many of us, that all of us, I suppose, are facing in different ways here. So yes, in terms of the use of metaphor, this idea of saying something in photographs that perhaps is bigger than the literal meaning of the photograph, than the direct meaning of the photograph. This image of the flower and the fence there worked very well there, to talk about kind of restrictions, perhaps restrictions to beauty or to growth in some ways. This is a kind of the image of the clutter outside somebody's house there with that sign. Very well seen photograph. It takes a lot to kind of think as a documentary photographer to overlook things that seem so ordinary. And many people say to me, well, the things you photograph, they're so ordinary. Anybody could take those photographs, which is, of course, to a large extent true. But it's about how you focus your mind, and it's about how you respond to the world. So we thought that was very good. And a number of other things that we liked was the repetition of color, the repetition of the blue that you talked about, being in terms of it being important to you in your statement. So Pearl, really great thinking in this work, really great way of looking at the world, very impressive, and a very good range of responses to the world and to the COVID situation there. So another photographer with a real interest in what seems to me to be a documentary aesthetic. And again, I'm hoping that we'll see you bloom, to riff off that flower there, as a documentary photographer. Sorry for that rubbish joke.
Great, David. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we move on to Ramona White. Thank you. And John, over to you.
Ramona. Ah, yes, Ramona. I really liked your work. I think we've said that for everyone because it's true. But what you've demonstrated here is, I think, personally, as a portrait photographer who likes to shoot in natural light, I don't like using flashes or modifiers. I like to use the light as it is. What you've demonstrated is an excellent use of the light in terms of your subjects, where you should place the subject, have them well lit. Excellent use of colors or understanding of colors. The grasses are orange and nice and rich. The sky is a beautiful blue. Also in terms of your framing, for example, image 3, the one in the middle here, there is a lot of dead space in that, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of dead space in it because the colors are so rich. This would be the kind of work I would like to see from someone I would take with me on a wedding, for example. Lots of natural light, lots of where you need that kind of eye and that kind of shooting. My only criticism, and it's a minor criticism at that, from your notes, you mentioned the armchair, that you wanted to show the juxtaposition of the new normal, bringing the inside outside. It wasn't until I read that I suddenly noticed he was in an armchair. That is my biggest note for this. I'd like to have seen more of the armchair, more of the inside brought outside, but a brilliant concept and very well executed.
Yes, indeed. And that kind of very strong kind of, I suppose, commercial, editorial, advertising aesthetic there. Really, as John said, really well kind of achieved, and using that, the geometry of that framing, that high framing, as he said. So I think we were again very impressed by this submission. Some of the strongest portraiture we saw actually in this particular context, I think. The only other observation that I would add would be to perhaps see more variation here in the images. We realized that there was, repetition was very important to the project, but perhaps just some further variation in the images there would have further improved the project. Perhaps he would be doing things that are more different. Perhaps he would be, using, more different things. You see him with a book, you see him with a laptop. Maybe you could have made that a little bit more dramatic. Maybe you could have had a kind of kettle and made a cup of tea or something like that. But I'm just thinking aloud, really, and we were very impressed by it. Again, we hope you've got a great career ahead of you, and hopefully you can develop those interests, if you've got them, in that kind of more commercial editorial portrait side of it. I mean, John's already offering you to go and assist him on a wedding, aren't you, John? So there we are.
Yeah. As soon as I get some weddings. Yeah,
yes, that's right. We need weddings to start again, as well as the rugby club. But fantastic work there. And as John said, an interesting statement. So well done there.
Great. This is turning out to be a bit of an employment agency afternoon,
yes,
as well as a photography competition.
Yeah, please forward CVs and relevant works.
Bright futures ahead.
Great. That's nice to hear. Great. Thank you. And last but not least by any means, we enjoy Rosie Myers' entry. And I think, David, over to you.
Yes. So this is a very interesting and different approach. I think one of the things that John and I really enjoyed about the process of judging and the process of looking at all your work is how everybody's so different. Everybody's got such different kind of ideas about the world, such different things that they're focusing on, and those kind of energies and passions coming out in different ways here. And of course, this work, it's all about family. It's all about the connections that we have about family. It's all about those supportive kind of bonds that we have, and in relation to the family depicted here. So Rosie's statement gave a clear insight into what we were looking at here. And Rosie, you're doing all kinds of things that a good photographer, that a thinking photographer, that somebody who wants to tell a story about a world should be thinking about doing. You're looking at the relationships between people, how they communicate to each other. The picture of the two girls in the window with the strong light, that hopeful kind of light coming through, really beautiful. And then the variation of the work, as we can see there, the nighttime, the picture driving and so on, picture of that individual driving there. That's the picture with the beautiful light coming through there. So a real closeness, a real tenderness, a real kind of warmth in photography. And it's interesting because some of the work that we've seen here have been more, I would say, objective, more removed, more kind of dispassionate, but in a really interesting kind of critical way. And some of in particular, the documentary work that we've talked about has done that in a really exciting way. And some of the work here, and we've seen a number of other entries that did that, were much more personal, much more subjective, I would say, much more emotional. And this definitely for John and I think fits into that category. So well done, Rosie, and fantastic, really close and emotional body of work.
Yeah, echoing everything David said and talking about those emotional responses when looking at work, which is a big thing for me. One thing I didn't mention earlier, which I will touch on in a bit, I think, is that I don't have any professional training. I am self-taught and I'm here by accident. More on that later. So the emotional response is something that's very, very important for me. And this image, I have felt that both as a child and as an adult. In fact, last time I went to Tesco's, all I wanted to do was lie down in the car park and go, I'm done. I've had enough. The world can go on without me. So things like that. Beautiful light in that last one with the window, the golden hour sunlight coming through. But that kind of emotional response is very, very important for me, and it's here within this work.
Great, thank you both very much for talking us through the nine entries, and once again a collective thank you and congratulations and well done to all of you who've had your work displayed this afternoon. So as I mentioned earlier, the results will be analysed and moderated, and we await further instructions from the Skills Competitions Wales team as to the next process of when and how the results will be conveyed. So that's the competitive part of the afternoon, if you like, completed. But we're going to invite John now for 10 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes. He's going to give us an insight on his background and his work, and he's already told us that he's there by accident, John. So we're very much looking forward to hearing more about that story. So thank you very much for agreeing to do this for us all this afternoon.
No, that's no problem. You might have to give me a wave if I go on for longer than 10 minutes. But so, yes, I've been asked to talk to you about what it's like to be a freelance photographer. And I have spent days agonizing over what to cover in this and what to tell you. The important thing for me, and I've been told not to use this word, but I'm going to. The important thing for me is a lot of the advice will seem hypocritical. They do contradict each other. But what I want to do is I want to give you a really balanced view of what it's like to be a freelance photographer and balanced advice. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So to start with, I am a fairly new photographer in terms of the profession. I started taking pictures when I was 27, after I had my first acknowledged mental breakdown. I went to the GP, we had a chat, and she said, you know what you'd need? That's a hobby. What do you like doing? And I had this little compact camera I used to take out on walks. And I said, oh, I like going out on walks and taking pictures. And she went, well, get in touch with some of the local photography groups. As someone who I now know has social anxiety, I 100% did not join any photography groups. But what I did do is take my camera out more and more often. I'd post the pictures on Facebook. Some of them are all right, some of them less so. You're not going to hit a winner every time. But off the back of that, sorry, no, there's another step. I went to a friend's wedding. I took the camera with me. I got absolutely smashed. Don't remember taking half of the pictures I ended up taking. But a couple of months later, he messaged me once I'd upgraded to my first SLR and said, my brother's getting married. He's moving to Australia. It's a small ceremony, only 12 guests, including you. I'll give you 200 quid to photograph it. 200 quid for something I'm doing for fun? Get in. Yes, I'll be there. So I went to London, photographed this guy's wedding. A couple of months later, an email from someone at my friend's brother's office. We saw what you did for him. We really liked it. We're having a similar small wedding. We're going to give you 300 quid. Sorted. Brilliant. And it all picked up from there. So that was 10 years ago, roughly, when I was in my mid to late 20s. And I never really took it that seriously. If somebody asked me to do something, I generally just agreed and worked out how to do it. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I have built myself up to a point that I photographed a wedding in Austria, in the Alps. I've been flown to Aberdeen for weddings and corporate events. I've been flown to Marbella for events. I have one of the Big Four. If you don't know who the Big Four are, Google it. I have one of the Big Four as one of my clients. And I've done this purely through word of mouth. I am not good at marketing and the whole business thing. I've only really started taking that seriously in the last 2 or 3 years, which brings me to the advice. So first of all, something David said that I've made a mental note to come back to. He said in some of his notes that he learned from me while we were discussing one of the works. I can't remember which one. It might have been Leah. I can't remember. And that's something that you should bear in mind. It doesn't matter how big you get, how good you think you get. Someone always knows more than you, and there is always something more to learn. As far as I'm concerned, David is a much more accomplished photographer than I am. He teaches it. I don't. I have no formal training. I don't know what I'm doing. I blag it on a daily basis. But David learned from me, and that's something you should always bear in mind, that you can always learn from other people. it doesn't matter about, well, it does matter about kit to a certain point. There are certain images you can't take unless you've got a ridiculously long lens with a wide aperture, but we'll come back to that. But there are things you can do to learn techniques. If you see an image that you really, really like, maybe reach out to the photographer. Damn, this is an amazing image. How did you do it? The worst they'll do is say, I'm not telling you. But you're not going to know unless you ask. There are formats on YouTube. There's a subscription site called Creative Live, which has some phenomenal workshops on. I'm working my way through them slowly. But all of these will level you up and up your game and make you better and better and better. The important thing to think of is not to get disheartened if you find yourself stuck in a rut or if everybody else's work is better than you, because one thing I have realized by taking a step back is I am not where I was 5 or 6 years ago. I'm a few rungs up the ladder from there, but I'm still looking up the ladder and going, oh, I wish I was there. I wish I could be that. But equally, now that I've moved up the ladder, there are people behind me on the ladder looking at me going, oh, I wish I could do that. And that's something important. That is important. Always think of where you are and where you want to go. Yes, focus on that, but do acknowledge where you've come from and how far you've come from. So I have 3 bits of advice for running your own photography business. And these are they. Rule number 1, say yes. Yes opens doors. It invites challenge. We are at our most creative when we say yes, especially if we haven't got a damn clue how we're going to achieve it. So some of the most amazing things I've done is just because I've gone, yeah, I can do that, and then put the phone down and gone, gee, how the hell am I going to do that? You become inventive. You work out ways to do things, and they don't always work. Sometimes they fail, but that's good. You now know how not to do that again. But you work better under pressure, and that's amazing. But also, here's the hypocritical part. Don't be afraid to say no. There is a lot of power in a no. Say no if it doesn't feel right. Trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Advice number 2, this is your business. This is your journey, and no one can tell you how to do it, and they will. So apart from things like HMRC, which you have to do, we all have to do that. There's not much else which is compulsory within a creative career and a creative freelance business. Having said that it's your business and it's your way, doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to people who say you should do it like this. There is nothing wrong with that, especially if they've done it for longer than you have. Now, I used to work for, I've worked for a few people actually that I don't work for anymore. And they've taught me a lot. The Perfectly Level Horizon, I learned from one of them. But the biggest thing I learned from them is how I don't want to run my business. Works for them, that's fine. Doesn't work for me. Took it on board, tried it, didn't work, pushed it aside. So ultimately, this is your business and you can do it how you want. You can listen to people or you don't have to. Similarly, you don't have to listen to this piece of advice. And finally, well, actually, I was going to say especially in the early stages of your career, but no, that's rubbish. All through your career, be passionate, but don't make it weird. Be passionate about your work. Show that you care, show that you love what you do, and show that you love the end result. I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit. For those of you who don't know the brand of Black & Decker, Black & Decker make power tools. What do Black & Decker sell? You're going to look at me and say, they sell power tools. Let's be more specific. They sell drills. They don't sell drills. They sell a hole in the wall. Somebody who wants a hole in the wall will buy a Black & Decker drill. They don't sell drills. They sell holes in walls. Equally, we are not photographers. We are photographers, sorry, but we don't sell images. We sell emotions. As an example of this, I took a portrait of me and my brother in the garden for my mum's 70th birthday. I have not seen her cry that much in years. The picture is irrelevant. The emotion that don't tell her the picture's irrelevant. She'll lamp you. But it's the emotion that it captures. That's the important thing. But you need to be passionate about that. You need to try and explain to people that this is what you sell. This is your value. This is what you do. But don't be weird about it. That's the underlying feature. I've done some work for high schools, ISEiW, and a couple of other institutions where I've been on a panel of professionals watching job applications, shall we say. And I did one in ISEiW we were a fake amateur theatre company. I have a background in theatre as well. Looking for a lighting designer for a fictional production of Sweeney Todd. And one guy came out and he had the flashiest CV. It looked like the centerfold of a magazine. He had a remote controlled presentation with 3D graphics that moved. You could go into the set, you come out of the set. He had his own branded shirt on. The first thing I thought when I saw him was, he's too expensive. We can't afford his services. Flash forward to the last girl who presented, who turned up in ripped jeans, a grubby t-shirt, a shirt over the top, very meek, very quiet. And in fact, her tutor leant over to me before she started and went, be gentle with this one. Fine, no problem. And the first thing she said was, can I just say, I love Sweeney Todd. It is my favorite musical of all time. If I get this, it will be the 6th time I've done it, and I am so excited. And from that moment on, it didn't matter what she said, she had the job, because she showed she was passionate about what we were trying to do, but not in a weird way. So I think I have waffled on for some time. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Was it actually?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, any questions, pop them in the chat, drop me an email, I don't mind. But I think, yeah, that's how I got started, and that's advice I'd give to anyone who wanted to start a creative career.
Yeah, that was exactly 10 minutes. So well done for that, John. Thank you.
Could you tell it was unrehearsed?
Some very useful tips and advice there for our young competitors. Yeah, and some things that resonate, I think, true to all of us there over the years. So thank you. That was really interesting.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask Rachel to give us a little bit of information about some forthcoming events that might be of interest to you as well. So Rachel, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to check that you can see my screen.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, just wanted to give you a quick update, really. I just want to start by saying thank you to all of today's competitors. You've really impressed me with your photographs. You've done so well, especially producing these in the time that we've had recently. Thanks to the judges as well for their constructive comments. Great. I love the banter between you both as well. Really great. And especially to John then for his wise words at the end. Just wanted to give a quick update to anybody who's watching, really, about what else you can get involved with the Inspiring Skills Excellence in Wales project. So we've got a few skills development projects, talks and industry insight talks coming up over the next few weeks. Now, this presentation here will be sent to your tutors so you can access these. So we have a photographer called Matthew Brown doing an introduction to astrophotography session at the end of March. John's doing us another session on outdoor photography and using Lightroom. We have a few different ones on web design, if that's something that you're interested in going down as a career route. And then we have Screen Alliance Wales, a few sessions from them if you're interested in maybe going into digital media as a career. So this presentation I'll send out to your tutors. If you're quick and you've got your camera on at the moment, you can take a picture or a scan of this QR code, and it will take you to the Eventbrite booking page. And you can book on to any of the sessions from there. They are filling up quickly, particularly the photography ones. They're really good. So hopefully you can get onto those if you haven't booked on already. Okay, some other things that we've got going on is we are currently using a platform called Slack. Now, this is more for tutors. So to join the Slack platform, again, if you can scan the QR code there, that will take you to the site where you can sign up. And the reason that we have Slack is that we want to create a professional network for creative media to share anything that's coming up, like the CPD events or good practice across the network. and to really encourage conversation between tutors. And also there's information that comes up in there about skills competitions and a chance for you to speak to others in the network. So scan that if you're a tutor and you'd like to join the Slack platform. Lastly, we've got these YouTube live events happening for our other creative media competitions. So we've got pop music on the 12th of March and the digital media on the 3rd of March. So if you want to see the other competitions, please, you're more than welcome to join us on YouTube. So yeah, you just obviously don't scan them now because they're not live. But this will, like I said, this will go out, so you'll have these links a bit further on. Just wanted to briefly mention the celebration event. So what will happen now is John and David will carry out their full judging process, and they'll allocate the bronze, silver, gold medalists. And then we'll be having a celebration event at some point in the future. The date hasn't been agreed yet. And then the top 3 people will be invited to that. It's going to be online event, so we can see who's won. That'd be fab. Unfortunately, photography isn't currently at WorldSkills UK, but if you are interested in maybe taking part in the digital media competition or graphic design, maybe depending on your skills, you can enter competitions with WorldSkills UK. Again, speak to your tutor. For tutors, we've got a steering group coming up again over the next few months to shape next year's photography competition. And hopefully John and David are going to join us to help us as well, really hone the competition for next year, allowing us to take it on a step. And hopefully next year we can be back in a venue where we can all be together and have a really good celebration of creative industries like we did last year. And lastly, for students, we have an ambassador program. So if you've enjoyed taking part in the competition and you found that it's beneficial to your skills, there's a link there that you can go to find out more about becoming an ambassador for skills, for vocational skills and for competitions. There's something, a little bit extra responsibility in your college if you want to just shout about taking part and also about vocational skills. Any other questions, you can drop me a line. Like I said, your tutors or the tutors will have my email address, and I'll send this little presentation out afterwards so that you've got all the links to everything. And that's it from me. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much.
Nia, could I just quickly say something?
Sorry, yes, of course.
I just wanted to say, fantastic to be involved and thank you so much. But just if anybody is interested in studying photography at university, going on to study photography at university in the future, we do have a centre of excellence for it at University of South Wales in Cardiff. And we have the 2 photography courses, a general photography course, which is brilliant, and our documentary photography. So have a look, there's lots of information on the website. And do get in touch and speak to us, come along to the virtual open days and so on. Yes, hope you wouldn't mind that small plug, but we've seen some great talent on display today, and I'd love to be involved in developing that in the future, as I'm sure John would.
Yes, I didn't mention earlier, and I should have mentioned, if anyone has any questions, you see a bit of work and you want to know how it's done, or you want to ask a photographer a question, ask. The worst they'll do is not reply to you.
That's very kind. Thank you. Very supportive. Thank you very much. I think that quite tidily brings us to the end of the competition session this afternoon. We weren't sure how long we were going to be on air. It looks like it's exactly, or coming up to exactly 60 minutes. So that's worked out perfectly. Yes, thank you all so very, very much. We wish you as young people all the very best and deserved success in the future. It's not been easy for you, and we salute your perseverance and your efforts very much so, and hope that your careers work out as you intend them. And we very much hope that taking part in this competition, has helped you also in the developments of your skills. So we are very grateful. And as I said, the judging will now take place formally between David and John and we will announce the winners at a timely event guided by the Inspiring Skills team in Coleg Sir Gâr. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi am eich cefnogaeth ac am ymuno hefo ni pnawn 'ma. Os oes gennych chi unrhyw gwestiwn, cofiwch ei ofyn drwy'r YouTube a mi ddawn ni yn ôl efo ateb I chi. Thank you very much all of you for your support and attendance this afternoon. And if you have any questions, please do contact us via the YouTube or whatever method is easier for you. Prynhawn da I chi gyd. A very good afternoon to you all. Diolch yn fawr iawn.